I paid for my luxurious life. I paid for my luxurious life, not with money, with freedom. I lived well, quietly, but well. Apartments I didn't officially own, trips I never posted, cash that never passed through banks. I wasn't flashy, I was comfortable. And comfort is the most expensive drug there is. I didn't rob people, I robbed systems, banks, cash logistics, businesses that trusted routines more than logic. I made money disappear where it wasn't supposed to be protected because everyone assumed it already was. I never rushed in with a gun. I showed up months earlier, in spreadsheets, in schedules, in habits no one questions anymore. My weapon wasn't violence, it was understanding how people stop paying attention. I knew when the money was vulnerable, when the courier was exhausted, when the guard relied on routine, when the accountant stopped double checking. I didn't break safes, I made sure they were opened for me. The first time they noticed the missing money 2 days later, I knew I'd crossed into something bigger than crime. This was structure, this was control. Most people don't even realize they live inside systems that can be quietly drained. I was successful because I stayed invisible. No supercars, no watches, no sudden lifestyle changes. I blended in. That's how you survive long enough to think you're untouchable. And that's when love entered the picture. She didn't know what I did. To her, I was just a man with business, with discipline, with a calm that felt safe. For the first time, I stopped managing every variable. I let myself believe I could live two lives at once. That belief cost me everything. With her came her brother, my brother-in-law. A man who always wanted more, faster. He didn't understand patience. He didn't understand systems. He only understood envy. And envy is louder than greed. At first, he asked harmless questions. Then he listened too closely. Then he started watching. I refused to bring him in. He wanted quick money. I knew quick money leads to prison or a grave. When I said no, I became his obstacle. That's how betrayal starts, not with hatred, with entitlement. I began to notice cracks, conversations that didn't add up, coincidences that happened too often. For the first time, the danger wasn't outside my world. It was sitting at my table. I realized something critical. I no longer controlled the environment. And instead of running or burning everything down, I made the decision that saved what was left of my life. I turned myself in, not out of fear, out of calculation, because sometimes the only way to stay alive is to stop playing a game you've already mastered. Part 2 is where it gets darker. How my brother-in-law finished the job, what she said when the truth surfaced, and why starting a clean life turned out to be harder than any robbery I ever planned. The betrayal was already signed. I thought turning myself in would end the chaos. I was wrong, it only changed its shape. People imagine surrender as a single moment, a door closing, handcuffs clicking, silence. In reality, it's slower. Paperwork, waiting rooms, neutral faces trained not to care who you were yesterday. I wasn't dramatic. I didn't confess everything. I gave just enough. That was still my instinct. Control damage, not emotions. What I didn't know was that the real sentence had already been decided long before I walked in. My brother-in-law didn't betray me out of fear. He betrayed me out of ambition. While I was calculating exits and consequences, he was already telling his version of the story. Carefully, selectively. He didn't say he wanted in and was refused. He said he was forced to stay silent. He didn't say he envied my life. He said he was protecting his sister. That's how betrayal survives, when it dresses itself as morality. By the time investigators spoke to me, they already knew where to look. Not details, patterns, schedules, habits. The things only someone close could have noticed. I recognized my own system being described back to me in Czujimi Słowami. That's a special kind of cold. The worst part wasn't realizing I was exposed. It was realizing how early I'd been sold. She visited me once, no tears, no yelling, just distance, the kind that tells you a decision has already been made. She asked one question. Was any of it real? That question hurt more than prison ever could, because the answer wasn't simple. The love was real. The life was a lie. And when those two collide, truth becomes collateral damage. I didn't blame her. I couldn't. From her perspective, I wasn't a man who made mistakes. I was a system that hid them too well. Prison strips you down fast, not physically, mentally. You lose rhythm, privacy, the illusion that you are exceptional. And that's when something unexpected happened. I started seeing clearly. For years, I'd been doing what businesses pay consultants millions to do: analyzing risk, exploiting inefficiencies, predicting behavior. I just applied it illegally. The realization hit me hard. Everything I was good at was transferable, just not where I used it. That's when the white world stopped looking fake to me and started looking inefficient. Inside, I met people who failed because they were impulsive. Outside, I saw companies failing for the same reason. Same psychology, different uniforms. I began planning again. Not robberies, futures, education, certifications, boring things, painfully slow things, things that don't give dopamine fast. That was the hardest part. Crime rewards you immediately. Legal success makes you wait. When I got out, I had nothing flashy. No network, no shortcuts, just one advantage most people never develop: discipline without excitement. I started consulting, quietly: risk analysis, process optimization, compliance. I knew exactly how things break, because I'd broken them before. Companies don't ask why you understand failure so well, they just care that you do. The irony is brutal. In the black world, I was careful not to attract attention. In the white world, attention is currency. I learned how to be visible without being exposed, transparent without being vulnerable, clean without being naive. As for my brother-in-law, he got what he wanted: money, briefly, attention, publicly, and consequences he didn't calculate. Fast people never do. I don't hate him. Hate requires emotional investment. I treat him like a bad variable that was finally removed from the equation. I paid for my luxurious life in full, but I kept the skills. And skills, unlike money, don't get confiscated. If there's a part 3, it's not about crime or prison. It's about building something legitimate with the same precision, and realizing that the legal world is far more forgiving to smart people than the criminal one ever was. Because in the end, the biggest robbery I ever pulled was stealing my own future back. Everyone pays people think revenge looks loud. It doesn't. Real consequences arrive quietly, when no one is watching. My brother-in-law got what he wanted: fast money, recognition, the illusion of being smart. He talked too much, moved too quickly, trusted people the way impulsive men always do, emotionally, not strategically. The system he thought he could exploit did exactly what systems do to amateurs. It crushed him without drama. No prison story, no cinematic ending, just debt, burned bridges, and a reputation that closed doors before he could knock. He paid for the same mistake twice, believing he was special and believing shortcuts last. She paid differently, not with punishment, but with understanding. Years later, we spoke once, briefly, calmly, no accusations, just clarity. She realized too late that stability and truth aren't the same thing, and that fear makes people side with the loudest version of reality. There was nothing left to argue about. Some choices don't need forgiveness, they need acceptance. And me, I paid up front. Time, freedom, silence. That was my invoice. But when I walked back into the world, I didn't come back empty. I came back precise. I built success the same way I once planned robberies. Slowly, methodically, without ego. I learned the rules, then the gaps between them. I didn't chase fast wins. I built systems that worked when I wasn't there. Risk assessment, strategy, process control. People management. The same skills. Different side of the line. I didn't talk about my past. I let results speak. Clean audits, stable growth, predictable outcomes. In the legal world, reliability is rare. That made me valuable. Money came back. Legally this time. Not explosive, sustainable, respectable, the kind that lets you sleep. The irony isn't that crime and business are similar. The irony is that business forgives intelligence while crime punishes impatience. They paid for their mistakes by repeating them. I won by never learning the same lesson twice. I don't glorify who I was. I don't regret becoming who I am. In the end, everyone settles their account. Some with excuses, some with consequences. I settled mine with discipline, and that's why I'm free.